Well, the president always has to be beefing with someone, right? It's how it's got to go. And over the weekend, President Trump continues to take his shots at too late Jerome Powell, as he calls him. He is, of course, in charge of the Fed. And there was rumors and rumblings last week that the president of the United States was basically polling Republican lawmakers on the idea of firing Jerome Powell. And the thought process there is Trump wants lower interest rates. He believes that will help the economy take off, which obviously would be good for him. The problem with that, of course, is that you're still running inflation nearly 3%, which is higher than ideally the Fed wants it to be at 2%. So Trump trashes Powell over the weekend. He specifically highlighted a piece in the Wall Street Journal that suggested that the President of the United States basically listened to Scott Bessent, his Treasury Secretary, and that's why he's not firing Jerome Powell. Well, the president put up over the weekend, nobody has to explain this to me. I know better than anybody what is good for the markets and what is good for the USA. People don't explain to me. I explain to them. Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Network, is here on KCMO Talk Radio. Charlie, what did you make of this swipe from the President of the United States yesterday?
Well, last week I reported, so the Journal story came out, Saturday? So literally on Friday, I reported in the Post that there's a disagreement inside the White House. There are some lawyers that are saying the president has clear authority to fire Powell, for cause, and cause can mean anything. And there's the Bessent side, Scott Bessent in particular, who said, don't do it, and here's why. So, the Journal kind of followed us. What I will say is that there is a disagreement inside the administration about the president's power. The president is currently siding with, in that debate, with Scott Bessent. Whether that's his own opinion or Scott Bessent's opinion, we can split hairs here. But there's no doubt that there's this debate going on. Some White House lawyers say he can do it. Bessent's people at the Treasury say don't. And not only is your power given the way the Federal Reserve Act is written, you have the power to fire him suspect, but it could have some market implications as well. If you put in a person that's seen as a rubber stamp for lower rates, it could hurt the Fed's independence. It could hurt people buying our bonds. So that story's real. The Journal came after us. I'm glad he mentioned that he attacked them and not us, kind of. But
So, Charlie, as people look ahead to the week ahead, the markets, you still have the tariffs, of course, lingering overseas. What is the thing that you're watching this week when it comes to what could create some market upheaval going forward?
Well, any sign of inflation, I think, is kind of what you look at here. The economy is doing pretty good now. People are spending money. Tariffs are kind of like on holdish, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like it's we have a budget that's passed, which is good. But you got to look at the tariffs take a while to kick in, and the uncertainty takes a while. So, if you're a business and your tariffs are going to be X, you start planning for it, and it takes time for for that to kick in. So, this is really a story for the next couple of months. Like in 2 months, where are we? Because the tariffs totally there's still sort of some daylight between what the tariffs are now and what they're going to be. There is uncertainty from a business standpoint. There's other positives in the economy too, right? You got the tax cuts have been extended. You have a budget. So there's positives, there's negatives, and I think just the next 2 months is going to tell you exactly, how bad these tariffs are going to be, and the markets will digest the inflation numbers.
Charlie Gasparino, Fox Business Network, is here on KCMO Talk Radio. So with that, Charlie, when you look at the Trump v. Powell deal, is Trump overplaying this like we've got to lower rates thing, or is he right in the sense that it will help take off the economy, especially on Main Street where there has been a lot of pain?
Yeah, I think this is a different debate. First off, it won't help Main Street because Main Street is mainly worried about, like, for all these consumer loans are based off the 10-year bond and the 30-year treasury, right? So if you lower short-term rates, you can spike the rates on those bonds. You see what I'm saying? And then that could hurt me. Okay, so why is he having this debate? I mean, what he's really saying, what the real problem is that the big beautiful budget doesn't cut enough of the deficit, particularly up front. Like, it's going to take a year or so, or 6 months, for the economy to cash some of that stimulus. See, you cut taxes, you keep taxes low. There is a stimulative effect where economy grows, as you're kind of seeing now, right? It takes a while for you to get that sort of those tax revenues in there where your budget deficit will go down. In the meantime, what they're doing is rolling over short-term debt. And short-term debt is what's priced off what the Fed does. And that's why he wants it low. I mean, so it's not really because of the consumer. It's because of debt management. They're spending a lot more money rolling over debt, short-term debt, and he would like to spend less of it. So it's kind of a catch-22 here. If you lower interest rates, when it really comes down to it, is what Powell's saying. If I lower interest rates, cut the Fed funds rate, you're going to get a higher 10-year bond. And then Trump is saying, well, if you don't lower interest rates, we have to issue more 10-year bonds, and then you'll get higher rates anyway on those consumer bonds, on those consumer-related investments. So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. That's the bottom line. Trump doesn't really get into that, but that's what's going on here.
So then what like, as regular folks are getting the week started, and they're just saying, hey, what's this mean for my 401k? What does this mean for inflation, for my cost of doing business if I'm a small business? Is there a side to take in any of this, or is it just, hey, wait and see, and this is really a game being played, I don't want to say above anyone's head, but it's more of a game that's being played that isn't going to have the impact on regular folks that maybe some in media are suggesting it will?
Well, if he gets rid of Powell, I think it will have an impact, because I think the stock market will react negatively, because the reason why, one of the reasons why people keep buying our debt, despite the fact that we're going into trillions of dollars into it, right, is because they feel like there's like an independent agency that kind of watches things, and that independent agency is the Fed. You start eroding that independence significantly, and people could balk. And so I think and I think that's the argument that Bessent is making to him, which is why he's backing off. That and the legal argument. You really want to get into a long fight where people are debating the independence of the Fed. It would just be protracted, and it would hurt the markets. And by the way, if you can't sell your debt, then interest rates do go up. So it's just this is complicated finance stuff. I would just say for the average person, it's better, I think, net to have an independent Fed than a not-independent Fed.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Hey, Charlie, great stuff as always. We appreciate your time and you being on KCMO Talk Radio, and we will do it again soon, my friend. Thanks so much for being here.
Anytime, Pete.
All right, Charlie Gasparino on 95.7 FM. Good stuff there, giving us that explainer as we get set for the markets to open up and kick off a new week here next hour.